Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of NCW, also known as New Comics Wednesday. If you haven't been with us before, we chat for a few minutes every Wednesday about Zenescope's newest releases. To find our newest releases, you will go to our website, zenescope.com. You will then click on New Releases, and then it will show you everything that's come out in the past couple of weeks, months. I'm not sure how far it goes back. I think in the quarter. If you're wondering why I'm not wearing my headset, it is because I have this half up, half down cheerleader hair ponytail thing, and my headset looked really, really weird on. So I'm sorry if the audio is not the best, but I'm excited to spend my Wednesday with you like I do every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Today, we'll be talking about Grimm Fairy Tales number 51, and number 50 left us off in quite a crazy battle and a lot of unknowns. And there's definitely a lot that I'm going to want to chat about. And today we'll have writer Dave Franchini, aka our publisher, on in just a couple of minutes. But in the meantime, I'm going to share details about the book, the synopsis, and the covers so I can figure out what is your favorite cover, which is my favorite thing to do. And yes, happy Wednesday. We're in a much better situation this Wednesday than we were in last Wednesday. Last Wednesday, there was a horrible storm happening. And this Wednesday, I don't think there's a horrible storm happening, but, stay tuned because maybe there is. So I am going to pull up the banners and the cover. Again, we're talking about Grimm Fairy Tales, Volume 2, number 51. We are picking up from the ending of number 50, which I believe came out like a little over a month ago. And here is our covers. Here are all the artists who worked on it, so you can see of which cover. And I'm going to pull those up now. You have cover A. You guys can take a look at. You might notice some new changes with the design of the cover as I can point them out to you, but I'm sure you can see it. Here's cover B. So at the top, you'll notice that they all have this branding that goes over 22 pages of content. We're going to try to include this on all of our books, and each storyline is going to have a different color system, so you know which stories go with which universe, etc. Because I know we have a lot of stories that come out, and sometimes people ask us, well, what's the difference between this, or is this in the same universe? And this will be a great way to code your entire collection, everything like that. So this is cover B. I know you guys are going to love cover C. Ivan Tao is just killing it on these covers lately. His Invisible Woman cover is definitely a top 10 of the entire year for me. This one's super hot. I love that everybody, like, all of his drawings recently look like they're wet, and I'm guessing that's his style. But it's just such a hot cover. Love these boots. Maybe need these boots in my life. And here is cover D. So again, drop in the comments which ones are your favorite. I'm not really sure for me this week. Like I said, I really like cover C a lot, and I know it's going to be your favorite. So, make sure you let me know. Okay, so I'm seeing a comment on here about what's the best way to get into the Grimm comics because you're new. First of all, welcome to the stream. I'm very excited you could join us today. We actually just did a Grimm Universe 101 panel a couple of weeks ago, which gives you the full breakdown of what the universes are, our characters. I believe it's posted on YouTube, but I can always shoot over that link. If you go to our virtual con and you go to July, you'll be able to see there's an incredible panel featuring, again, our publisher, Dave Franchini, who will be on today, as well as our co-founder, Ralph, who talk through just the differences. There's a couple of quick breakdowns I'll share here. So the Grimm universe has a couple of different storylines. You have Grimm Fairy Tales, which comes out almost every month. We get a new story. Then you have Grimm Spotlight, which spotlights a character. You have your quarterly that spotlights a different storyline, and most of those times those do connect. But I know there's so many questions about the Grimm Fairy Tale universe and Grimm universe, and we're definitely going to be putting out some more info on our website and through social over the next couple of months, over the next all of 2020, to really explain to you guys, like, if you're a new fan, where do you start? How do you get involved? Who are all of these characters, and etc. So I'm going to read the synopsis, and then I'm going to bring on Dave really quickly. Sky is the guardian of the Nexus, the protector of our world and the surrounding realms of power. Over the years, she has proven herself time and time again that she is worthy of that title. But as her life finally begins to settle down, she quickly learns that her journey is far from over, and the quest she is about to embark on will be the hardest of her life. Don't miss the beginning of this next exciting arc of Sky's journey, taking her to places never been explored in the Grimm universe as she battles her deadliest foe, the Dark Princess. And I know you guys love the Dark Princess. So without further ado, I am going to bring on Dave.
Hello. Hello, world and Amber world.
What's good, Dave?
No, we're sending Grimm 52 to print today. So that's going to happen right after we get off of here.
That's crazy. So anything you want to spoil to everybody about Grimm 52?
Oh, everything. Yes. You don't have to buy it. We'll scroll through it real quick.
We'll give that 101 rundown.
Yeah, we'll go page by page, panel by panel. We'll be good.
How long do you think, if we read an entire comic and we did kind of like comic book theater, how long do you think it would take us?
I mean, it probably should take you 15, 20 minutes for the regular ones, because it's you figure a minute a page.
You know what would be cool if we did maybe a commentary panel where we did go through page by page, and then you maybe shared the editor's notes or what you guys were doing on it so people could see how that all happens.
That'd be cool. You're yeah, that isn't anything that was in the script. We just went along with it because the artist drew that and stuff like that. Or yeah, that could be cool.
I'm going to make a note. Maybe it will just be a note that'd be this really sucks. Please change.
No, we would never do that. We write it much nicer. And
okay, well, if they say it really nice, this kind of sucks, then you'll know that it really sucks. They just said it really nicely.
Yeah, or it's just kind of that wasn't what we're going for. Let's try this. The complete opposite of what you went with.
Dang, I get emails like that from Dave all the time. Now I know that he thinks everything I do just sucks.
That's cool, but let's try this. Yeah.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about Grimm Fairy Tales, and it's so hard to talk about some of these stories, especially a story like this, because there are so many things going on, and if you unveil almost any part of a story, it spoils to other stories.
Yeah, especially this one.
Yeah. So I won't say what the spoiler is before I kind of dive in and ask Dave some questions, but I will say that last week we talked about Robin Hood the Swarm. If you did not read that book, you will be very lost as to what is happening in this story.
Yeah, we try to catch you back up, but not to the point where we want to read you the other book. So it's yes, this one, it kind of gives you a little input, but reading Swarm and then reading this, it kind of they build on each other.
Yeah, agreed. It definitely has a lot of connections. Again, won't unveil what they are, but
the Dark Princess.
So we chatted about this in our 101 panel back in July, but could you give us a slight recap and the core parts of Grimm Fairy Tales, and without spoilers, like I just mentioned, why Robin Hood the Swarm and any other stories might be crucial to this story?
Do you mean all Grimm Volume 1 or just go into Grimm Volume 2?
Just anything in the recent issues that people should know about that kind of leads up to this issue.
I mean, all right. Well, so Grimm Volume 1 was about Seela Mathers, the Guardian Nexus, and Grimm Volume 2 is all about her daughter. And it's about her daughter taking over her mother's job, basically, as the guardian of all our worlds. We have the Earth, which we call the Nexus, and then we have 4 realms, which is Wonderland, Neverland, Mist, and Oz. And Sky is learning through this new volume for these last 51 issues, what her place in this universe is and how she's going to be able to protect it. So it's basically issue 1 was first day of school, and then now it's she's in her 3rd semester of the first year. So she's kind of learning her way through it. And then each thing she figures out, we kind of throw it something that's a little bit different, a little bit harder out of the next time. So that's what the fractured universe is. The first arc was about legacy, Sky taking it on and dealing with some of the older villains that her mom's taken on and people that were filling in the void. of villains. And then the second one was all about Age of Camelot and introducing all new heroes and new characters in the Sky's world and expanding her world a little bit. And then the third arc was the Odyssey, which kind of brought her into all the different realms. So it showed her Wonderland, Oz, Neverland, Mist, and it basically introduced her to all these different worlds that she has to protect and keep from our world. And then now we had the Dark Book that kind of went into more just kind of her trying to rediscover herself and being alone for the first time and figuring out who she really is and what she can do on her own and not relying on other people. And now, don't want to spoil too much, so this is going into what's out there further than what she's come to know. Like, all right, now you know all this stuff. It's like, well, here's a bunch of stuff you never heard about, never knew about. And we're introducing a lot of new characters, a lot of new worlds for Sky to explore coming up. And that starts with 51, which we just got in.
So you mentioned this, but this storyline has been going on for so many years. Actually, really quick shout out. There was a fan that wrote back in one of the surveys, and he said that he became a VIP because his dad passed away, and he started going through his collection of books, and one of them was Grimm Fairy Tales, and he had been collecting it for so long. And so then his son found out that we published the story that he had been collecting, and we were actively still publishing. And so that's how he became a VIP, so he could like carry on his dad's legacy.
That's crazy. So he's like Sky. He's Sky.
He is Sky. And I read that comment and just like it, I shared it with some of the other people on the team and just like touched my heart. Cause I was like, this person kept this legacy alive because it meant so much to his dad. And you're right. He's literally Sky.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, that's a crazy way to get a fan. But I mean, that's crazy how he got into the comics. That's really cool.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, this story has been going on for so long. The series has been going on. How do you guys continue to find inspiration without totally going in left field and coming up with some crazy wacko things that do not work?
I mean, it's kind of a mixture of that. Like we kind of go left field and we go the crazy wacko stuff. And then we're like, all right, that's too nuts. And then you rein it in a little bit and you kind of go like, again, it's also too, it's like you kind of like you read the character and you know the character and you kind of say like, all right, what's the next progression? What's the next thing that she's going to do as a person? But then what's the next thing? Like, all right, this is what she's going to go like help run the school. But what can we throw in there that changes her plans? And then where does she go from there? So it's kind of like when we outline, it's really figuring out what her plans are. How can we ruin those plans? And basically then then you work through like how she would deal with it, how that character would, how she would naturally deal with that. And then you keep throwing in little wrenches and you make her figure that out. But I mean, a lot of it is just like, you think of the craziest thing you can, try to bring it back a little bit. And then you start building your way that way. So you naturally get there. So it's not like, all right, we went all the way here, but it's like, we missed like 3 steps before we got there. Cause we're building out to get crazier, especially after this. Like this arc is building out to get a little bit more nuts. You'll see it at the end of this 51 and then 52. When it goes there, you'll realize how crazy we're getting with it.
I will say again, when I was reading Robin Hood last weekend, I had no idea that that's what was going to happen in the storyline. And when I didn't spoil it, but I did say we see a lot more characters than you realize. There's a lot of cameos. And when I started seeing all these cameos, it was like, oh my God, that storyline now connects to this storyline that connects to that storyline.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing too. Like, that's the cool thing about like the shared universe and having like the Grimm universe is like, you have all these characters that are doing their own thing, but then all of a sudden something pulls them all together. And then you're like, oh my God, that's so cool. I just read them over here doing this, fighting the Scorpion Queen, and now I see them teaming up with other people over here, and you're like that's the fun part about it too. Is kind of like for us, like on like the creative end of it, where we get to plot out like, all right, well they're doing this, and you're not even going to know that all of a sudden this character is going to pull them into this story. But I mean, even with this, like just showing the first couple pages, so you get a bunch of characters here from different stories, and then I'm sure somebody else screen grab. But yeah, so and then you get all these characters. You're like, and then from here it's going to branch out. Like so, each of those characters we're going to kind of see where they go from here, but also follow our main character Sky. So it's good. It's fun.
I was actually thinking about this as I was like typing out the questions and my thoughts today. That's the best thing about being at Zenescope. And I think the best thing about the team is that because, we're a smaller indie publisher, we have a smaller team working on this. So you have the flexibility to know it's not like one person is working on one storyline and somebody else is working on another storyline. You're overseeing with David Wall all of the storylines, so you can connect characters whenever you want to. You don't have to like check with another department or something like that.
Yeah, we don't have to worry like, oh, where are you guys taking Robin Hood this month? It's like, no, like we've kind of mapped out like this is where the characters are going, and then sometimes naturally you're like, oh well, that wasn't planned, but like that works now. We can connect this to it. Like there's a lot of things that happen last minute, like you don't even notice, like, or you don't even think about. Like it's not like necessarily last minute, but after you get the stories in, and then you start seeing how they can connect, and then you start connecting those, and then sometimes you come up with things like, oh, it's going to work this way, and then all of a sudden you get to it, and you're like, that's not going to work. We got to figure something else out, and then like it's crazy how it kind of evolves as you go. But I mean, it is fun, because we were small and we have a small amount of characters right now and books that we work with. So like you can kind of control a little bit of where everybody's going and kind of feed them into each other. Like if you're reading the new Van Helsing stuff coming up at the end of Beast of Exmoor coming up, it's going to lead, and also too, like, yeah, so Beast of Exmoor and Invisible Woman, they're kind of leading up to the next big Van Helsing stuff coming up, which is cool. And that was
so I don't want to take up too much of your time, and thank you for sharing. Like, I actually have a lot of questions today that people have been asking in the comments. Number one, Chuck asked you about your shirt. It is a Truffle Shuffle shirt.
Oh yes, chunk.
Somebody asked, can I just start reading Grimm without starting at the beginning?
For Grimm 51, you technically can. We're trying to make every arc kind of easy to jump on, but also each issue is it'll feed you a little bit of information to kind of catch you back up, but not too much where it's like hitting you over the head like this is exactly what happened the last 5 issues. But I mean, you can pretty much jump on it. Like we're trying to make it so you can jump on any one of our stories, any one of our issues, and be able to figure out what's going on. So each issue will kind of have its own story plus feed off of the other ones before it. But the safest bet, start off with Legacy and then build your way back up. The Legacy trade paperback or the graphic novel.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, obviously, before I worked at Zenescope, I read Zenescope here or there, but I wouldn't say that I read every issue that ever came out. But now I read everything that comes out. And now that I do, I get to see connections from other storylines. But before, I didn't notice, and I still had an idea of what was happening in the story.
That is good. It's good to hear. That means it's working.
It is working. Your scheme of getting hardcore fans to come together for your robot army has officially commenced, and it is in Operation B part of it. Okay,
cool. That's good. It spoils issue 52 and 53, but thank you. No. Kind of. No.
Before I let you go, who is your favorite current Grimm Fairy Tales character?
We've discussed this. I can't pick one. They're all so fun. I mean, like, of course, I love Belle. I love Gretel. Cinderella's probably the most fun. Like, because she's just crazy, and I love, like, and a little bit slapstick, but a little bit, like, goofy. So I love, like, that's what I get drawn towards. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know. All of them. Every single one. But I mean, yeah, it's probably those 3 are my top. Yeah, especially right now because we got a lot of plans going forward. I mean, especially with Robin and Helsing, but we have a lot of plans going forward, all of them for 2022. Yep.
I love the sound of that. And Chuck wants to know what your favorite cover was of this week.
You can't put me on that spot either. I mean, I got to work with everybody. I like these. I like them all. I mean, they're all there for a reason. Like I like them all for their own reason. Like the A is just the iconic cover, the B is the action, the C is the pinup, and D is a pinup action. So I love them all. I can't choose. They're all my babies.
They're all his babies. Well, Dave, thank you so much for joining us this week on NCW. If you guys didn't know, next week we'll be doing a 101 panel about Robin Hood, and Dave will be on there to chat all things. So if you don't know that much about Robin Hood and you don't know where to start, that'll be a great opportunity to
I need to start reading, but thank you for having me. All right, cool.
Who's Robin Hood again?
Yeah, she's the one with the hat, but that's cool. All right, cool. Well, thank you.
Bye, Dave. Thank you. I love having Dave on all the time because he gives me great insight as to what's happening in this universe. You know, it was really awesome. And again, you guys can't see because I got some people on Facebook, I got some people on Twitter, some people on YouTube and some people on Twitch, but we actually have a couple of new people asking like a lot of questions about who we are. So if you want to go back and read past Zenescope stories, you don't know where to start. NCW has been going on, I believe, since March or April, so pretty long. So you'll be able to get a quick synopsis or like what our thoughts are or what guest we had on last week or the week before. So you can learn a little bit more about us and our stories, but somebody recapped it very, very well in the comments about how we are a good mix of horror or fantasy or sci-fi or fairy tales. It's just a little bit different than what you're used to, but that's the best thing about coming into what we're doing is that you probably know most of these characters that we're featuring, like Belle and Robin Hood and Van Helsing. They're just told a little differently, and that's what makes us really, really unique here at Zenescope. It's almost recap mode. I just want a quick shout out to this wonderful comment that I have in the comments right here. Robin Hood 11. If you haven't read that, you have to read it because this really great guy named Jeff Cerrito may or may not make some sort of appearance in it. You know, stay tuned. So, still getting a couple of more questions. So what kind of comics do you guys publish? So like I mentioned before, we do some horror, some dark fantasy. We take a lot of the fairy tales. To a certain extent, we have our own version of superheroes or what we'd call them. Like I would consider, for an example, we don't publish Buffy, but I consider Buffy a superhero. So because I consider Buffy a superhero, I also consider our Van Helsing character a superhero. I mean, Seal is a superhero. They have powers. Hercules is a superhero. Everybody has their own set of powers. I just don't think we necessarily call them superheroes, but very, very cool. And we have an incredible amount of female characters, which makes us stand out a little bit more than other publishers. So if you haven't read us before, make sure that you check us out. Grimm Fairy Tales is one of our signature series. So is Grimm Tales of Terror. So if you head to our website, go check it out. Well, he's asking for other people, Chuck. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick recap of the comic. Grimm Fairy Tales, Volume 2, number 51. Again, $3.99, written by Dave Franchini. If you're just joining us, go back and rewatch this. Listen to some of his thoughts. Like I mentioned before, you can be new and read these storylines. You might be a little lost, but you'll recognize a lot of the characters and their names. However, if you read Robin Hood Annual and maybe you read, I don't know, my favorite character, I don't know if anybody's figured it out. I think I've mentioned him a couple of times. If you read his storyline, maybe he shows up somewhere. Also make sure that you read Grimm Fairy Tales 50. But if you don't read them, you won't be lost. It just helps because then you get like homages. And this is kind of picking up from a couple of different stories. There was this really epic battle, and now there's maybe going to be another epic battle. Won't spoil it. Okay. Again, we had 4 covers, as we always have. This is cover A, then cover B, then cover C, and then cover D. And as you heard from Dave Franchini, all of them are his favorites because all of them are sold and created for a certain purpose because every fan has a different preference of what they like, right? Next week, we will be talking about Possessive number 2. It is going to be the second part of a 3-part series done. Really, really awesome. The first one set us up about how much of a loser Todd is, our main character here, and how creepy this like haunted entity spirit that lives there. So part 2, I'm kind of interested to where we're going because it's kind of hinted on cover A in part 1, but seems like maybe it's a non-traditional love story. I guess we'll have to learn more in part 2. I've not read it yet. I'm very excited. So Possessive number 2 comes out next week. I don't know who I'll have on the show this next week. Ralph will be in the office, so maybe I'll ask him to attend. The week after, I believe I'll have David Wall on, our editor-in-chief, who is also going to be a great guest and we haven't spent too much time with. here's everything that's going on. So next Thursday and Friday is our next virtual con. So fast, happens quicker than you could ever imagine. And September 16th through the 17th, here's all the times. The schedule will be dropping very, very soon of what will be happening at the event. But going to be a lot of fun. Just 2 days of fun hanging out with us. We had our last retailer live stream yesterday. So if you want to go back and see what was sold, or you just want to hear more about Wade's comic madness, they were a great guest. So you can tune in. Or we're going to have another retailer live stream in October. I believe it's going to be October 4th, which is a Monday. I know usually they're on a Tuesday, but this one will be on a Monday because New York Comic Con is that week, and we will be headed to New York Comic Con on that Tuesday. Speaking of New York Comic Con, we actually just announced today that we will be having a panel. We'll actually be having 2 panels, but we're going to be having a pitch panel. So if you are attending New York, or you know anybody who's attending New York who's ever want to be featured in a comic book, we will be accepting pitches at our panel that Sunday for scary short stories for our future Grimm Tales of Terror issue. So make sure that you share that with people. Let them know. It would be awesome to be published. Maybe I'll pitch them. I'll be on the panel. Ralph will be on the panel. Our editing team will be on the panel. So if you're going to be in New York, either sign up to pitch us. You can also come by the booth to sign up, or you will be able to just attend the panel and hear maybe potential storylines that will be shared in future Grimm Tales of Terror issues. Very, very exciting. So that's happening October 10th. The panel's from 11:15 to 12:15 p.m. We'll also be having another panel that Friday of New York Comic Con, which is be a get to know us panel, us sharing a little bit of background, previewing some stuff, and just some awesome stuff that's happening on Zenescope very, very soon. Our latest podcast, I believe, will be dropping this week or maybe early next. Check out our social to find out about who our special guest will be. We'll also be starting to collect entries for our cosplay contest, which will be happening for our horror virtual con at the end of October. I believe it's the weekend of the 22nd. So if you know any cosplayers, it can be very similar to the setup that we did for May. We'll call it a costume contest. Start sharing it with people. Let them know. We'll be having signups or taking signups very, very soon. That might be it. I'm looking at the comments one last time. I know, Chuck. I won't say that will never happen. Maybe that's something we'll do at the VIP event and future events. We'll see how this pitch panel goes, but I'm very, very excited to see how it all goes for everybody. This has been a very lively chat on NCW in the comments, which is kind of awesome. I am going to address this question. Will there be a vcon with any leftover? I will say that we'll definitely be sharing stuff in the horror con. Maybe there'll be a dedicated stream. We are going to be doing some cool stuff. I'll just share some of it right now. Whatever, I'll let you guys on the inside scoop. That's what happens on NCW. This is a little bit longer NCW, but we'll be doing 13 days of Halloween promo. We'll be doing a Halloween advent box. There's a lot of very cool stuff happening for Halloween. As you know, that's our biggest time of the year and your biggest time of the year. You guys are huge Halloween fans. So a lot of it will be shared on social about very cool stuff that will be coming out, especially related to Halloween. Some other stuff. We have a few more announcements happening this week, but the pitch panel is a big one. I also dropped it on Monday. Chris kind of mentioned it, or on Tuesday. This is a short week. I apologize. Some of our characters are going to be featured in a haunted house down here in Philly called Fright Factory. Very excited and looking forward to that. More information on what characters will be featured. And maybe that's something next year that could be maybe linked to the VIP event, or maybe we build out a really big version of something. I don't know. I don't want to tease too much, but I want to get you guys excited about something. Oh my geez. Okay, last one. This always makes me laugh. I know every year you guys ask for Comic Company. I know how much you miss it. Maybe one day. Oh, Adrian's right. Zenescope Halloween will be so fun. In case you guys didn't know, and this is kind of just a side note, we're actually having a retreat here at Zenescope next weekend, and I'm going to get to meet Adrian. I'm very excited. She doesn't live at the office, in case you guys didn't know. If you're not a VIP, you should be a VIP, and you should contact Adrian. Then you get to talk to Adrian all the time. But I'll get to meet her in person. I'm very excited for it. And if you're not a VIP, what are we doing? What are you doing? It was such VIP event was a lot of fun. I had such a great time. Adrian is absolutely the best. Okay, this has been a really long NCW. My apologies. I'm going to sign up. I came up with a really good tagline last weekend that I used, but I can't remember what it was. So what I'm going to say is, I think I want to say this. This has been NCW with Amber, and us here at Zenescope have had 16 incredible years of reinventing horror, fantasy, and sci-fi. I will see you guys all next Wednesday, and then Thursday and Friday for the virtual con.